It's time for Around the Ozarks Sports Scene, sponsored by Thompson Sales, Fast Break Sports, and The Pitch. Here's your host, Scott Puryear.
Welcome into another edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. I am Scott Puryear. As always, big thank you for tuning in this week. Appreciate that. Every week when we talk sports with local newsmakers, some of our favorite people, whoever we can get to come on for a while here on Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. And big thank you to our sponsors. Of course, that would be Fast Break Sports, The Pitch Pizza and Pub, and our latest sponsor, Thompson Sales. And we'll talk about all three of those here later on in the podcast. But special guest is a longtime friend of ours. He's been an educator, administrator, mostly in the Springfield Public Schools for 27 years, I believe. Hanging it up next Monday, June 30th, after spending the past 4 years with the Missouri State High School Activities Association. We welcome in Marty Marsh. Marty, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me, Scott.
You betcha. So next Monday, you walk into the office in Columbia, probably put your feet up on the desk and say, I'm not doing a thing today. It's my last day. Or those who know Marty Marsh know that that's not even possible, right?
That's difficult for me, that's for certain. And it's going to be an eerie day. It's going to be awkward because since I arrived here 4 years ago, the only thing I haven't done is prop my feet on the desk and kicked back and relaxed.
Now we'll get into that later, but my understanding is, I've done a little research for this and talking to some of your former bosses and possibly your wife, Trish, that you wouldn't put your feet on the desk for fear of maybe knocking a pencil or pen out of line. And that would be an issue, right?
You're probably right. I'm probably a little OCD and probably have everything lined up to the centimeter on my desk. So
where did that come from? Was that a BJ Marsh thing or a Swanee Marsh, or where did you inherit that?
I think it was a BJ thing. It's crazy because I've just had it all my life, and it's something that Monty did not get, but I picked up on, and I don't know. I mean, we were raised the same, but two different peas in a pod, I guess. So
well, we'll talk more about that with you and some of those things, but just really first want to bring you on, congratulate you on a great athletic career. You're not just going to sit around and fish or read books now. You actually have another gig lined up, correct?
I do. I am excited to be going to work for the Missouri Department of Conservation as their education and outreach supervisor for the Southwest District, and going to be working under the leadership of Warren Rose, and really looking forward to that opportunity.
Now, what will that job entail? What are some of the duties?
So the Missouri Department of Conservation really wants to grow their connection with schools, in particular archery, bass fishing, hunter ed, fishing ed, outdoor education programs. And I think without a doubt, I'd be naive to say if they wanted me for any other reason than to make connections with schools and help embrace them getting their programs out in the education and the education-based athletic world.
Well, I know you played a key role in bringing archery to the SPS schools. I imagine that's something they're really fond of, is that you were able to do that and really open up a whole new area of interest for kids in our schools here locally.
You're exactly right. Mark Fisher, Josh Scott, myself, and Teresa Miller were able to launch the archery programs in Springfield Public Schools. And from the literal endorsement of that program to the time that I left, we had over 950 participants in archery in Springfield Public Schools. It grew to be the largest program in the state, and certainly, like everything in education-based athletics, I'm proud that we got a group of students and usually a non-traditional athletic group involved in education-based athletics and activities, and really gave kids an opportunity to feel connected with their schools.
Well, that's awesome. And of course, one of the many things you were able to accomplish in your time at SPS, we go back to your days at Greenwood Laboratory School as a student and went there K through 12. Not going to say who said it, but one of your former bosses, Mark Fisher, might have noted that it took you 26 years to graduate fully from SMS, Missouri State. Is that accurate?
Yeah, he tells me that quite frequently. And as he had the opportunity to speak at my retirement reception in the Mitchell office last week, he certainly promoted that concept. And one of the things while I was here with the Missouri State High School Activities Association, I got to re-implement and redefine the student advisory program, which is comprised of 2 students from every board district around the state. And I had the opportunity to develop that advisory committee and work with those students. And some of those students were at my retirement reception last week, and they certainly got a kick out of the fact that it took me 26 years to graduate.
Well, and of course, you played football at Greenwood. Did you play other sports there?
I had the opportunity to play football, basketball. I ran track and played tennis. I hurt myself going into right after my senior year of football, and so I didn't get the opportunity to play basketball, run track, or play tennis my senior year after reconstructive knee surgery. But I had the opportunity to go help Mark Fisher and Todd Mercer. And certainly it was just the opportunity that really propelled and launched my interest into becoming a teacher, coach, eventual athletic administrator. And it's kind of scary to say that Mark Fisher has that all to be thanked for, but he certainly paved the way for me and provided a great deal of mentorship along the way.
Well, and I wanted to talk about Greenwood because a very sad note over the past weekend that the passing of longtime legendary Greenwood football coach Paul Moon Mullins. And I know Coach Mullins was your coach. And what are your thoughts and memories of playing for Moon?
Well, as you talked about, Coach Mullins was just a player's coach. He was very demanding, and yet, the greatest thing that I took from Coach Mullins was, while he had high expectations and was demanding, at the same time, you weren't going to find a coach that loved you anymore, that cared for you, that teased you multiple times. Obviously, I interacted with him frequently at school and on the football field, and he was actually my tennis coach as well. But I spent a lot of time with him at Highway K Boat Dock on Bull Shoals Lake. And, my parents provided my brother and I with an opportunity to have a boat during high school. And that probably kept the 2 of us out of trouble because we did a lot of activities on the lake, all the way from skiing to fishing we did a lot of night fishing, and Coach Mullins was always there to encourage us and tell us how to catch the fish and where to go and how to stay out of trouble and all of that. And as I talked about and really credited Mark Fisher for my mentorship, I would be negligent if I didn't address the late Larry Atwood, Paul Mullins. Those are 2 Hall of Fame coaches that really taught me the business of education-based athletics and really taught me, as I say, they're Hall of Fame coaches for a reason, because they were certainly the top of the line and really gave me a great start of what it was to be a teacher and coach.
Now, what year did you graduate from Greenwood?
I graduated in 1990 and then went on to Missouri State and had the opportunity my first 2 years in college to go back to Greenwood as a student assistant and worked with Mark Fisher, and had the opportunity to coach my brother for a couple of years there. And then Mark Fisher was certainly a driver in connection with me getting started with Springfield Public Schools and Coach Mike Keltner at Glendale.
Well, and I'd posted this on social media, but I was fresh out of college as a sports writer, and Moon and Will Purvis and those guys were just wonderful to work with, and for a guy who knew nothing about sports writing, they were very patient. But I just remember those teams, Alan Rose, and quarterback, and Mike Hamra, who was always entertaining, and just a bunch of guys that were fun to be around. And you got to experience that on a daily basis, even past that as a coach, and just the way they were around kids.
You're exactly right, and I have such fond memories of my time at Greenwood, and to this day, still, I'm connected with many, many people there, and I've talked about Coach Fish and his mentorship and just mentorship in life to me, and what he's meant to me, but obviously, as you talked about Mullins, Atwood, Purvis. I could just name Bull Reese, the people that I could talk about in my time at Greenwood certainly were very instrumental in my life.
Well, I think, most people will know you as the role you played with Mark Fisher and Josh Scott, and then a little period there between those two where Jeff Starkweather and Randy Stang, I believe, were there as well. But you served many roles in SPS. I know you were actually a principal at one point, right? Was that
I was
middle school
I was a middle school principal and a high school assistant principal. So,
and did you run as quickly as possible after those stints back to athletics, or?
There was always just this nudge to pull me back towards athletics and activities. And I think I got that, my dad was an official, and always ran trips to sporting events. And my mother was the first band director in Southwest Missouri, who was a female, and she pioneered and led the way, and marching band. And I just got that love for athletics and activities from both of my parents. And certainly then my coaches contributed to that love and inspiration to become involved with it.
You're right. The side AD at Glendale and Kickapoo during that stretch as well. And I know that a lot of people knew you for the thankless job of basically herding cats at the middle school level with athletics, right? Was it 9 middle schools, I think, along with the 5 high schools?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to transition the middle schools in Springfield from really being nothing more than a glorified intramural program to mission members, and really starting. I had the opportunity to start wrestling, cross country, archery, those activities in Springfield Public Schools, and certainly at the middle school level, and then had the opportunity to work with high school athletics in the Bass Pro Tournament of Champions, presented by the Chevy Dealers of the Ozarks, and the Pink and White Lady Classic, and just such fond memories of my time there in Springfield, and especially in the district athletic activity office.
Marty, you still don't have to say Chevy Dealers of the Ozarks. Is that just automatic now? If you mention tournament champions, it just flows out after the end of it?
It just rolls off the tongue. It's crazy how that happens.
Oh, wow.
Probably Tad Pinniger being a good friend of mine. Maybe I can get a car from Tad,
Yeah, hey, you get a car. I'd call Abby before I'd call Tad, though, to get that done. But so, the fact that the tournament champions, and I know Josh feels this way, inheriting all that from Mark, or actually after Mark, the two, that were there between. But the tournament champions, it's its own beast now. And of course, that goes back to the late Dr. Edsel Matthews and his efforts to get it revived and started in 1985. Was that kind of the highlight of the year for you and whoever your boss was at the time? And how did you embrace that every January? I know it's a lot of work, but there's a lot of fun involved too, wasn't there?
There is a lot of fun, and it's certainly one of the highlights of my time in Springfield Public Schools. And, it's actually interesting. I had the opportunity to coach at Glendale when we won, and we're the first Springfield Public School to win the Bass Pro Tournament of Champions. Mm-hmm. And then I was at Kickapoo as the building AD when the second Springfield Public School and only other Springfield Public School won the Bass Pro Tournament of Champions. So that's always been a highlight of mine, to be a part of both programs when those teams won the Bass Pro Tournament of Champions. I was a fan from day one, back in 1985 when Dr. Matthews started the Bass Pro Tournament of Champions, and I was at that first event, and really always admired the work that Dr. Matthews did to create that opportunity. And it was while I was at Kickapoo. Believe it or not, this dates us several bit, but Mark Fisher asked me to be a part of the Bass Pro Tournament of Champions because it used to be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday event.
Yeah.
And I think it was Ben Fisher who was baptized on a Sunday of the Bass Pro Tournament of Champions, and Mark needed to be at that baptismal, and so subsequently asked if I would come over and just kind of play a role in the Bass Pro Tournament of Champions. And so from that time there in Hammond Student Center, things just evolved, and certainly Mark's leadership with that event, but certainly paved the way as we transitioned from Hammond Student Center into at that time JQH Arena, and now the Great Southern Bank Arena. And the advent of CBS television and being live on television. And I played a role in coordinating that event, and just some of the details that were, behind the scenes, and some of the things that transpired, certainly played a very supportive role in that. And then when Mark retired from Springfield Public Schools and went to Drury, during the Randy Stang and Jeff Starkweather eras, I had the opportunity to step up and play an even larger role in that, and go recruit those teams and bring those teams into the tournament, and really developed a relationship with Tony Dorado and Nike, and the coaches that we had brought in there, and just really had the opportunity to watch that event grow, and then work with Josh during my last 2 years, his first 2 years with the Tournament of Champions, and really bring that in. And he's certainly done a great job of just continuing that tradition and enabling that event to grow into what's really a community event. And it's, I said it at the time, but it's so much more than a basketball tournament. It's truly an event for the community that everybody gets to interact with in the month of January, and certainly very proud of where it is today.
I need to ask Fish about that, because that's poor planning, a baptism on the Sunday of tournament. There's 51 other Sundays. I mean, can't the Lord reserve that one for the TSC back then when it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday? And that had to be a Debbie deal, I would think. That we'll have to ask.
I think you're exactly right. I think Debbie said, Mark, you are going to be there.
Yeah, and when Debbie speaks, he does.
Yeah, he does. He does, like any of us, and certainly I'm thankful for Debbie's demand, because that had gave me an opportunity to get started with the Bass Pro Tournament of Champions.
Well, we mentioned the last 4 years at MSHSAA and the Columbia offices. The downside of that was, at least here at the end, being away from your wife Trish, who returned to the Ozarks to coach the last couple of years. What was the impetus, I guess, for you to go to MSHSAA and try it out? Because I know you'd worked closely with them over your time at SPS, but what led you to go to Columbia 4 years ago?
Well, from the beginning of my professional career, it had been a goal and a dream that I had chased. And so to achieve such a mark 4 years ago was certainly meaningful. When you look at my body of work going from a teacher and coach to a building assistant principal and athletic director to a building principal, and then as the assistant executive director at the Missouri State High School Activities Association, after being an assistant director in the Springfield Public Schools. I mean, it's totally been the pinnacle of my career, without a doubt. And it's just been a joy serving the member schools, their students, the coaches and directors, administrators. Had the opportunity to work with two great executive directors, and Dr. Kerwin Erhan and Dr. Jen Ruckstead, really in the promotion and development of education-based athletics and activities. And it's just been an amazing time.
We're going to bring in here somebody that knows a little bit about Marty Marsh. We wanted to kind of bring him on to get his thoughts. And I don't know what his title is on there. There it is. Yeah, I see it now. But joining us, the man with all the stories, is Mark Fisher. And we hope to get some of those from Mark. Mark, can you hear us?
I can hear you both.
Yeah. We were kind of getting into earlier, and we're going to get back to the MSHSAA stuff, Marty. You're not getting off that easy before this is done. But, Mark, you worked with Marty at Greenwood as your assistant coach and brought him over to SPS, and you must have a liking for this guy. What's the deal there?
Well, Marty did everything that I either was not good at or didn't want to do. And that was like paperwork, talking to cheerleading parents, those type of things. So, Marty had a skill set that I knew from an early age, and he was somebody that was good at getting things done. I think he's a lot like a pit bull with a T-bone steak. He's not going to let it go until he gets the job done, and just so thankful that our paths crossed during our careers.
Now, was Marty in charge of pep rallies at Greenwood?
Well, if he was, that's one thing that he probably didn't do. I think he misunderstood. I said, Marty, you put the sleeping bag on.
Of course, that worked out. And anybody who was here in the early to mid 90s knows that we're talking about Marty's brother, Monty, just a tremendous player at Greenwood, and had an unfortunate incident in a pep rally where he ran into the wall and I think a thermostat deal or something. And it was dicey for a while, Marty. That's probably not one of your career highlights, right?
No, it caused me, it certainly created a more stronger bond between my brother and I, and caused me to love him and appreciate him a whole lot more. But there was a time that, as Mark will tell you, we weren't real sure he was going to make it through. And some scary days and a scary night in particular following that pep assembly. But, I cannot thank and it, again, another example of what Mark taught me. Mark left a game before it was even to be played to return to be with my brother and myself and Mercy Hospital in Springfield, and it just really showed what it meant to me to have that opportunity.
Well, Marty, this is going to look like this is your life, Marty Marsh.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see on the screen, but Josh Scott has now jumped into the conversation there. We thought we'd share some Marty Marsh stories here as part of your going away celebration and retirement from MSHSAA. And Fish, I think you got a good one. Was there like a bee attack out at Kickapoo one time?
Well, Marty was the site athletic director out of Kickapoo, and he was well loved by most people. I said most. I think that there was some graffiti up on the press box out at the football field at Kickapoo, and it may or may not have included something about Marty. So we were going to go check it out. But Marty, being the young whippersnapper, we sent him up. There was a double-decker press box, so there's a little chute that you had to go through to get to the second one. And so we sent him up first, and little did we know that there was either a hornet's nest or a bee wasp or something. And about the time he got through it, those bees attacked him, and I thought it was Meltilus. I've never heard the F word used so many times in a matter of 5 seconds in my life. And he swelled up, but he was a trooper, and it wasn't funny for Marty at the time, but it sure was for the rest of us.
We welcome in Josh Scott, the current director of athletics for Springfield Schools. Josh, thanks for joining us. We're having a Marty Fest here, and appreciate you taking time to jump in. Kind of wanted to ask you, you came from Waynesville and the job up there, coming into a new school district, Springfield, the largest school district in the state of Missouri. How instrumental was Marty into helping you get acclimated to the new role?
Well, you told me this was a roast. That's why I showed up.
It can become one here quickly. Yes.
No, Marty was outstanding. I mean, I came in and I had been an athletic administrator for 10 years and thought I knew what I was doing. And where to go and how to operate. And honestly, it took a little bit of time before Marty was able to convince me, hey, relax. This is what you can control. This is what you absolutely cannot control. And by the way, let me take you around and meet people. So my first 2 months, I felt like Marty was the mayor and an Uber driver all at the same time.
Well, and we were talking today, you didn't have to tell Marty to go out to games, right? He just went to games.
Yeah, it was insane. I'd look at him and say, hey, why don't you take tonight off? I'm going to cover this game. And then I'll be darned if it's middle of that game and I don't see him walking in the stands. So, he loved it. Probably every athletic administrator would tell you that the best part of the job is being at the event, but Marty took that to a completely different level.
Fish, you didn't take advantage of Marty on that, did you at all?
I couldn't get Marty away from the concession stand. I'd be in there watching the games, and he'd be telling me how good the hot dogs and the popcorn was. But no, we would kind of split. One night I might take the north side, and Marty would hit the south side, or we'd switch, or maybe one of us would go to the middle school game. So yeah, we tried not to show up at the same game, but sometimes it happened because there were certain games in town on a given Friday that everybody kind of wanted to be there and watch.
Well, Fish, while you're on a roll there, tell us about this OCD Marty that we need to know more about, because I heard from a Trish Marsh that there's still a blue ruler missing from the move from Columbia back to the Ozarks, and Marty's about to have a coronary over that ruler and where it might be.
Well, Marty's desk and my desk were totally different. I had stacks of paper, and I knew exactly which level of a stack it was on, and Marty had nothing on his desk. I always thought it was, it showed that I had a lot to do, and Marty didn't ever do anything. But in all reality, Marty would have his pens lined up. All of his photos on the wall were straight. And sometimes we'd go in, and I don't know if Marty knew it or not, we just move a pin just to maybe a half an inch just to see if he would notice it. And but no, he loved to have everything in order. And that's where his organizational skills come from. And that's why he was such a great asset to not only I, but Randy and Josh.
Marty, did you notice they were out of line?
Oh, yeah. They used to get a good smile out of the fact that I'd walk in, and it was kind of a test to see how long it took me before I would realize that something's been moved. And,
Josh, you carried on that tradition, right?
Yeah, we would look a little bit. I think what people need to understand is Marty uses Final Four intensity when he orders a sweet tea. So when you get that and take that into understanding, everything else makes total sense. So what's just kind of funny now, I'll FaceTime Marty a little bit because Dr. Michael, who's in Marty's role, could not be the polar opposite from desk. He's probably somewhere even worse than Fish. But I'll look in there and I'll just start shaking for Marty. It's so completely different for him.
And I think, Fish, you touched on this, and Josh, I want to get your thoughts, but that's kind of the perfect Robin to your guys' Batman, isn't it? I mean, having somebody like that is willing to do whatever and so detail oriented.
One day, the next, before I leave the role, I think I'm going to count the amount of people we interact with during the Tournament of Champions, because that's going to be how many pages Marty had in the 3-ring binder when I got here 8 years ago. And I looked at him and I said, hey, man, we can't do this on paper. We've got to put it in a computer. And Marty just looked right at me and he said, all right, let's go. And it switched to Google. And it is still, Marty, how many years have you been gone now? 4?
4 years, yeah.
3 years going into the 4th. And what he started, we're still using. We haven't changed any of it because it was so good.
Yeah. Hey, Scott, when CBS Sports came in to televise the Bass Pro, those folks, the Joel Cattays and Noah Kozloffs, those guys, they were amazed at Marty. They wanted to know where we got him. In fact, they wanted to take Marty home with them. And there were days we were going to let that happen. But,
hey, Scott,
what about you, Josh?
Hey, Scott, I should have told, hey, Mark Fisher, Google is inside the computer. I should have led with that for you. I'm sorry.
Any good Marty TSC stories? I mean, he did not lose Bill Self, right? That was somebody else that we know, correct?
Well, that was our friend Dan Brocker that did that.
Yeah. He had one job, right?
He had one job, Mel.
Yeah.
But no, Marty was in charge of everything.
Yeah. And if things went wrong, did you guys immediately point to Marty or not?
We didn't have to.
Yeah, no, he was already there, and I abide by the Mark Fisher rule. A moving target is hard to hit. So if you just keep walking around, Marty was going to find the issue, and there's got to be somebody else's hand we have to shake.
Marty, has it become any easier for you to go to the TSC and watch now? Because I know you've got people to see and talk to and catch up with, don't you?
You know, it's been great the last 4 years, really just watching how Josh just continues to grow the event and really sit back and watch and marvel at all the things. And you know, I probably reach over to Trish and nudge her every now and then and say, boy, that PSA really sounds familiar. It's kind of the language I might have used in such an event. But you know, it's really fun to see and just the growth of it and all the people involved. Something I'm very proud of.
Mark, when you had Marty as a assistant coach, you know, and of course an athlete at Greenwood back then, did you see this kind of career coming out of him? You know, 20, almost 30 years in athletic administration.
Yeah, well, I tell the story. You know, Marty's senior year was my first year at Greenwood, and Marty was a really good football player. And so right at the beginning of basketball season, he goes on a ski trip. You notice I didn't let Monty go on a ski trip. So Marty goes on a ski trip, hurts his knee, has to miss the entire basketball season. So I call that a win-win. The first win was I got a really good student assistant coach out of it because that's what Marty ended up doing. And the second win was I didn't have to go and tell Marty he wasn't going to get to play much his senior year. So
the doctors took care of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a good thing. But really, I knew at that point, again, Marty would do what it takes to get the job done. And, you know, at that time I had Coach Mercer on the staff and John Van Leer, and all of them went on to be successful coaches. And so I knew Marty was going to be successful in whatever area that he went. And, you know, Coach Keltner stole him from us, and then he went on to Glendale, and then his career just went on from there.
Marty was telling us before you guys jumped on that he was Stu Stinger's personal coach in the Tournament Champions. Did you know that or not?
Well, I know Marty was a cross-country coach.
Maybe that's what he meant by that.
Yeah, there you go.
Josh, I know you're very active, I believe, on the board of MSHSAA. Kind of talk about Marty's contributions in these last 4 years up in Columbia.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, without a doubt, Marty brought some of the same strengths that he led with here. So I cannot imagine that there are not remnants of how he runs championships, how he organizes things, how he communicates that are not being used across the board, or not the board, excuse me, the executive staff at the MSHSAA office. And I'm sure that it's going to look very, very similar when Alex takes over soccer next year. And I noticed a big upkeep and uptick in communication from basketball Marty's first year when he had some oversight with basketball. With I think you worked with Doug that first year, Marty?
I did. I certainly did.
Well, guys, I appreciate you jumping in. This is your last chance to get a good Marty story or dig in. You got anything else you want to tell the listeners, Mark?
Well, all I know is, you know, Scott, I think I was telling you, you know, Marty started at Greenwood in 1977 as a kindergartner. Took him 13 years to graduate, which is somewhat normal. And then he got his bachelor's at Missouri State, his master's at Missouri State, and then his specialist. It took him 26 years to graduate from the campus of Missouri State. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, that's a slow learner.
Well, there should be a building in his name over there, shouldn't there? Not sure which one, but yeah, we'll get Brent Dunn on that. He can find one, can he?
Well, I'm so proud of what Marty's accomplished and our friendship, and it's just unbelievable career. And I know that his new endeavor will be icing on the cake there, and just so proud of him.
Josh, do you see a big relationship coming with the Missouri Department of Conservation and SPS?
It's actually a pretty cool full circle moment. You know, when I got here, I remember looking at Marty and I'm like, hey man, do you care about anything else besides archery? What's going on here? He's just was so passionate about getting other kids who weren't connected with things involved in school activities. And I will, you know, while it may have taken Marty over 20 years to graduate from Missouri State, I think it's kind of interesting that Greenwood has actually demoted half of their men's basketball coaching staff to the middle school level. So I would say, you know, Marty, there could be a possibility for you still over there at Greenwood if you want it. But, you know, just I can't think of a better person. I mean, awesome family man and great friend. And I am selfishly excited for him to move back to Springfield just so that I can see him a little bit more frequently.
Very good. Guys, again, thanks for your time. Appreciate it. And we will talk to you on down the road.
All right. Take care. Congrats, Marty.
You bet.
Thanks.
Marty, some of your buddies there, any thoughts about the little surprise pop-in from them coming in?
You know, it's just amazing to see them. We interact frequently. As a matter of fact, I'd previously talked to both of those guys today, and they didn't let me in on the secret. But you know, we talk all the time, and certainly have such respect for both of those gentlemen because I would not be where I am today without their mentorship and guidance and leadership, and certainly just so honored to call them my friend and have been associated with them.
Let's talk a little mission now as we get into that a little bit, and kind of we're going down that path when they came in, but what you've learned about MSHSAA's role in activities and sports across the state of Missouri. And I think one of the common misconceptions among fans out there is, well, darn it, MSHSAA did this, did that. Am I not correct that MSHSAA is much like the NCAA, that whatever MSHSAA does is what its constituents, its members, the schools have said they want to have happen in terms of rules and regulations? Is that correct?
Scott, you're exactly right. MSHSAA is an association of the member schools. And so the member schools are actually the ones that create the bylaws, that create the rules, and they elect the board of directors, like both Mark and Josh have and are. And Josh will be the upcoming president to the MSHSAA board of directors this next year. And, you know, they create the rules, they create the bylaws, the policies, and then it's the executive staff's role to enforce them and to make sure that they're carried out, and to really be here as a service to the schools, the ADs, the coaches, the teachers, the students, to just really make sure that you know, those policies and bylaws are created to provide equitability across the board for all schools, and we're here to support them in those endeavors.
I've got to believe that a day or a week in the life of a MSHSAA employee is pretty mind-boggling and entertaining because of the situations and issues that may come in, either a phone call or a Zoom call or a text or an email. You got to experience that for 4 years. Is that accurate? I mean, is it just amazing what's going on out there?
You know, every day's a new day. You have no idea what's coming at you. And you can have the best laid plans for coming in and working on this, and this, and none of that occurs because something breaks loose. You're on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And just the number of calls and emails and text, and it's baffling. You know, there are 10 executive staff members here on board, and I can tell you, when you look at every athletic and activity program that exists across the state, and the fact that MSHSAA plays a role in those programs, it's baffling that there's 27 employees in this office that keep all of that going.
Well,
And, it's truly, as I said, it's been an honor. It's been the pinnacle of my career, and certainly something I'm very proud of, to have been a part of.
Well, you're all pretty much crisis counselors. I mean, because you can have a crisis at any moment in the state of Missouri in athletics and activities. And that's the thing, too, we'll talk about. But MSHSAA is not just athletics. It's speech, debate, theater. I know you play a role into separating those into their own entities for the first time. But, I just think back to, and it wasn't one of MSHSAA's proudest moments, but it was unanticipated. But the announcing situation on the Nixon State Football Championship game, your director, Dr. Ruckstaff, jumps in and says, we're stopping this at halftime and makes a change. And that's kind of a microcosm, I would imagine, of life at MSHSAA. There's a problem, let's fix it, right? And you did. And to her credit, she handled it like a pro's pro.
It is, and it's certainly, as you look at the whole picture, it's it's mind-boggling what all happens and the crisis that you deal with and the multiple crises, the number of things that come at you. Every day it's like putting out many fires and going to many fires across the state, and you always, I think I've been asked, what's the trait that a MSHSAA executive director has to have, and integrity, honesty, character. Those are the words that I think of, because the decisions you make are impacting people way beyond you even knowing. And those decisions certainly leave a legacy, but there are also decisions that you have to make, taking what's in the best interest of all parties involved. And it's a thankless job. It's certainly, the last 4 years, I will tell you, I'm just tired, because you just go nonstop. The travel that's involved in the job. My colleagues are getting ready to leave for Chicago here on Friday to a week-long meeting, and I mean, most people think, well, you're just over the state of Missouri, but when you really look at it and think that we are playing a role in the advocacy and the development of programs and rules across the entire country, we are in different cities weekly. We're in different rules meetings all over the country, and really promoting programs. And I've been from the East Coast to the West Coast to the North to the South, and countries in between during my 4 years here in the MSHSAA office. So a lot of the work is certainly done in the state of Missouri, but there's a lot of the work that's done out of the state of Missouri as well.
The public school versus private school conversation happens every year. I'm sure it comes up in talks with all you MSHSAA employees. What are your thoughts on it? Is it something that's going to have to be changed, obviously, by the constituents, if there is ever going to be a change? And is there enough impetus for that to even happen, or do they feel like the system is what it is?
Right now, I would say the system is what it is. One of the things I've learned in my position here is never say never, because things can change in a heartbeat. There are certainly, I'll take the sport of soccer that I had the opportunity to oversee while I was here in the office. If you look at those championships, they've been dominated by the private schools, and yet at the same time, this past year, we saw a lot of public schools in the championships too. And so, I think the membership has looked for ways. When I first began, it was the multiplier of 1.35, and now it's the championship factor. And I think those are factors that continuously are examined. But I think more than anything, there's a look at how do we continue to have programs and make them the best that we can for kids.
I've got to think one of the toughest case-by-case decisions for MSHSAA is the move for athletic reasons type deal. Is that eventually, do you see that going away completely with open borders, or what are your thoughts on that? Because I know it's it's very contentious. It seems like a lot of times when that case comes up, wherever it is in the state of Missouri.
It certainly is, and I think, believe it or not, I think there's a misperception out there that the executive staff in this office is short-sighted and only sees one perspective on that, and that's not really the case. As a matter of fact, I see the governor getting ready to sign a law that is going to change the landscape of MSHSAA with the opportunity for students that primarily have been homeschooled, but other types of students to become involved in MSHSAA athletics. And it would be inappropriate for me to comment too far in depth, because those discussions are currently underway, and how that landscape's going to change. But I think the whole premises has been about getting kids to be involved and getting them involved where they can be successful. And that's really the whole premise and the whole focus on it. And yet the membership has clearly spoke to say, we don't want schools recruiting kids away from other schools. And we don't want the premise or the primary factor for movement to be that of athletic reasons. I know there would probably be many in the public that would challenge and want to argue with me that you don't always do that. And I'm not going to say that we're 100% in what we do by any means. But I can tell you the majority of those decisions are made by boards, either the appeals board or the board of directors that are members of our member schools. And they're hearing those cases. And, the 10-member boards get to set in and make the decision. Is that for athletic reasons? And is it not? And, those are not easy decisions. And there's not always, you can't always decipher, just like many things in life, the clear reason why one person moves from one school to another.
What emerging sports are coming? What do you see down the pipe for new sports in MSHSAA 5-10 years from now? What are you guys watching?
Well, certainly the growth of women's wrestling. I would see the addition of another class here pretty quickly. Boys volleyball is a sport that is growing rapidly. I see that becoming a full-fledged sport, here as we are now, but it growing as well. Stunt is an activity that it's a championship cheerleading type activity that I see growing rapidly. There's a variety of different things that I see happening, and certainly very proud to have played a role in those things, and certainly proud to see the continuation of athletics and activities. I said it last week in my retirement, and I challenged my colleagues when I made the statement. I believe that high school athletics and activities are one of the last strongholds in developing kids into productive citizens in our country. And, not only the values and ethics that are derived from participation in sport, but also the lessons that are taught of hard work, dedication, effort, work ethic. Those principles are certainly taught through the participation of athletics and activities. And when we lose those from the education setting, it's going to be a sad day, because they certainly promote to the development of our citizens. And I would say that, if you look at any people that have been
Marty, before we let you go, I think the most important question of the day: where is that damn blue ruler? What happened?
Great question. I'm still going to blame Trish for that move and that lost ruler and that transition. But no, as I speak to Trish, I would be negligent if I didn't address the fact that Trish has played just an absolute amazing role in my professional career, and certainly thankful to her as we get ready to celebrate 28 years of marriage. And my kids have certainly played an instrumental role, and certainly have sacrificed for my involvement in athletics and activities.
Now, Maddie's on the East Coast in med school. Is that right?
Maddie's out in Boston. She she's been at Mass General Hospital in nuclear medicine.
Okay.
And she is getting ready to begin another job with the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. It is part of the Harvard School of Medicine. And she's doing work out there and trying to find a cure for cancer. And certainly very proud of her and what she does. And Mitch is works with Missouri State Highway Patrol as an information analyst, and is a high school and college football, basketball, and soccer official.
Awesome. Well, how proud you must be of both of them. And I will tell you this, that my understanding is you and Trish have always been very competitive. Now that it's spilled over to pickleball, does she have the edge on you in pickleball right now or not?
You know, having been a tennis player, I probably have a little better skill set, but she likes to run me, and I can't run very far anymore today. So, you know, we have some fun times on the pickleball court, and you know, just really looking forward to getting back down to Southwest Missouri and in the Springfield community, and living a life with her under one roof, and seeing each other daily. And you know, that's probably been the hardest part of the last 2 years, is living away from each other. And you know, I talked early on about my parents and the role they played in my development, but you know, my mom, my dad, losing both of them in 2020. Trish has now lost both of her parents as well. And that's just brought even a more renewed vigor that, you know, while it was a difficult decision to make the decision to retire, it's the right decision, because I need to be back with her, and family's important, and certainly looking forward to that opportunity.
Very good. Marty, again, thanks for your time. Best of luck to you, and stay in touch, okay?
Thank you. We'll do so. And I appreciate everything that you do for athletics and activities.
Thank you, Marty. We'll talk to you soon. Marty Marsh, the retiring associate director at MSHSAA. And of course, after a long career with Springfield Public Schools, wanted to bring him on to talk about his experiences. And again, it's nice to have somebody with MSHSAA kind of explain where they come from on several of their things, because I think there's a misunderstanding in a lot of ways of their role and how those things work. So appreciate Marty coming in for that. So that's going to lead to our sponsors. Big thank you to them. Of course, Fast Break Sports is located on South Campbell. They're your home. They're at 3109 South Campbell. Your home for all things sports cards, collectibles, memorabilia. They've got it at Fast Break Sports. If you've got that sports card you want to protect, go see the guys at Fast Break Sports. They'll put it in the right materials to make sure that card stays pristine for years and years. Also, the Pitch Pizza and Pub. They're in the Southern Hills Shopping Center just off of East Sunshine before you get to Highway 65. Owner Brian Bevel and his staff have a great selection of pizzas, calzones, appetizers, you name it. It includes their famous smoked wings, all kinds of frosty cold beverages to wash that stuff down. Go see the guys and gals at the Pitch. And, of course, they've got meeting areas for your next event, whether it's a party or a networking meeting. Give them a call at the Pitch, and they'll get you set up. And then lastly, our newest sponsor, Thompson Sales. The Thompson boys have been dealing since 1919 with the area's best selection of new and used Buick, GMC, and Cadillac cars and trucks. What sets them apart, of course, is the way they treat every customer like family. Whether it's buying a car or having it serviced in their award-winning service department, you'll feel like one of the Thompsons when you go to Thompson Sales. That's going to do it for this week. Again, thanks to Marty for his time. We appreciate all you tuning in, and we'll see you next week on Around the Ozarks Sports Scene.